today we are making a ham. It's backwards. This is 18.16 pounds. Into the pot it goes. Okay, now I don't ever measure anything. I just kind of pour stuff in. I'm going to try to get this closer. Okay, so for this one, Dr. Pepper. I dropped these before I started. Dr. Pepper. Orange juice. That is probably about 2 cups. And cherries. And I'm allergic to this, and I haven't taken Benadryl yet. But I'm going to chop this up and put it in here. Okay, now I'm going to add a couple of chunks of light brown sugar. Probably less than a 1/4 cup. This one's hard. Another 1/4 cup, so like 1/2 cup of brown sugar. 3/4 of a cup of brown sugar. When I say I don't measure, I truly do not measure. Ever. That's why my recipes never come out the same twice. And if you ever ask me for a recipe, I'll probably give you the last one I used instead of like a permanent recipe. This one so far is not permanent. Okay, now I'm going to add honey, but this isn't going to be as much honey as I usually use. depending on the size of your ham, I would say just like give it an even smear all over, like an even coat of enough to coat the ham with a nice little thin layer once, and then that can mix in. The reason I put so much sweet is because the ham is already salty, and if it's sitting in the soda overnight, the soda acts as a meat tenderizer, and it dissolves the soda. The pineapple does the same. The orange juice, I believe, also might do the same thing, but I'm not sure because it's acid. I still need to chop the pineapple, and then I'm also going to add fresh orange juice and fresh orange zest to this one. So I'll be back for that. Okay, I'm going to grate some of the orange zest into here before I start cutting into these. This is optional. I don't usually do this. I'm doing it this time because I'm experimenting. Like I said, my recipes are never the same. Okay, here's a couple of the pineapple pieces. Here's a few more. I didn't cut the core out. I didn't even slice this one. Something that I gotta show y'all. These little things right here that come out of the pineapple, these little brown specks, are seeds. How do I know that they're seeds if pineapples don't have seeds? Because I've planted these and actually sprouted little itty bitty miniature pineapples. All of them won't sprout, but they do sprout. So I save these every time I find them, or every time I remember to, because I'm trying to grow pineapples from seeds. And here you can see a bunch more that I've collected out of this one pineapple. I'm going to look for some more. Now for the oranges. Just gonna squeeze these to release the juices and then drop them in. I'll pull them out before I stick this in the oven. From here, from this point, I'm gonna let it sit for a couple hours. It's not completely submerged. Normally you'd want to make sure that your whole turkey's sitting in a brine, but I don't want too much liquid in here because I have to reduce that down on the stove into a syrup that I'm later going to pour over the ham once it's pour over the ham once it's been in the oven at 300 degrees for like 5 hours, covered with foil. At which point, once it's done that, you take the foil off and then you crank it up to about 400 degrees. To about 400 degrees, and then you begin basting it with the syrup every 15 minutes so that it can get that nice shell all the way around it. Pineapples getting shoved down into the liquid so they can also break down with the soda. Soda has a lot of acid in it, so that helps break down stuff. Okay, now put your lid on it. Let's see if you can see. Put the lid on it, and it's going to sit for a couple of hours. It's not going to sit overnight, but it's going to sit for at least 4 hours. So yeah, we'll see you back here. I am about to score the ham and put the cloves in. The X spots of the scores. I'm not very good at explaining, but you'll be able to see what I mean. You don't want to go too deep. And I score about 1.5 inches, so this is approximately 1 inch, so 1.5 inches to about right there. Okay, now I'm marking it on the opposite diagonal. Again, about 1.5 inches from the previous score. It doesn't have to be exact, but you don't want to put too many cloves in your ham, and you don't want to, you know, not have enough clove in your ham. Okay, now for this next part, I've already got some of the cloves in. I'm just putting the cloves in where X marks the spot, where each cut intersects the other cut. If you don't like a lot of clove, you could put it in every other space. Totally up to you. This is not like a firm recipe. This is just how I'm making it this time. I typically change something up each time. Okay, after this, I am going to pour some of the marinade over the top so that the ham doesn't dry out. And then I'm going to cover it in foil and stick it in the oven for 5 hours at 300 degrees, at which point I will take the foil off and crank it up to 400 and start glazing every 15 minutes for about an hour or a little bit longer, depending on how thick you want your glaze. You can glaze it every 5 minutes, but you'll lose temperature in the oven. You can glaze it every 10 minutes, but it's just to get a nice thick sugary coating on your ham. All of this red color is from the maraschino cherry juice that I put in there. And that's what gives it that really mahogany color whenever it's done. That and the Dr. Pepper. I think it's what really gives it that red, that nice red color. This recipe originally started as a Coca-Cola ham. The past couple of times that I've made it, I used Dr. Pepper instead of Coca-Cola. And I like the Dr. Pepper better. Just making sure not missing any spots. All of it. I'm going to pour just enough to cover the bottom. There we go. The rest will be reduced on the stove. Going to arrange these pineapples across the top, just haphazardly. I'm not gonna actually, I think I am going to stab through them. You'll want to use the foil as a tent on top of the toothpicks. Okay, now in the oven for 5 hours at 300 degrees. Covered like this. Alrighty, so here we have the marinade that I was had the ham in. This has been cooking for reducing for approximately 2 hours. It's gone down about 1.5 inches. You'll want this to be much thicker than this. Much thicker. Oops. It's at 400 degrees right now, and I've basted it about 3 times. I am going to keep basting it until it's got a thicker shell on it. The cherries are in there, but they're on the bottom. There's a cherry on top. Okay, I am at 400 degrees for about 45 minutes now. I have basted it a total of 4 times so far. I want a thicker shell on it, so I'm going to keep basting. Yeah, so... Okay, I am at 400 degrees for about 45 minutes now. I have basted it a total of 4 times so far. I want a thicker shell on it, so I'm going to keep basting. Yeah, so... I completely neglected to get a shot before I cut it, but